Finally, an inch of rain last night. Boy, what a treat. We haven't had an inch of rain since beginning of June. And instantly the grass greened up. I'm starting to see, there are ditches where the farmers cut to make hay. I'm instantly starting to see little clover plants, and that rejuvenation of the alfalfa just started to poke up and bloom just instantly like that. So I'm anticipating some nectar flow, which will be very encouraging. Nothing that I figure is going to fill honey boxes, but just to complement the syrup that we're putting into the winter nest. So that is going to be good. And a flow of pollen, I mean, that is gold. With all the patties that I'm feeding right now, that pollen is just going to spark that nest, and it's going to form a very nice defined winter cluster. So these escapes, we're going around on the second pole, just stripping everything off now. And these escapes have been on for 3 days. Set on Thursday, Friday. Set on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Today's Saturday. And they're not working. Well, they look empty now. There's a smattering of bees in them. So the whole act of this escape board isn't quite as effective right now, just because of the lack of nectar, the laziness of the foragers, workers, processor bees, and it's a little bit cooler now, if you can believe it. I don't know what this cool weather is all about. I haven't felt it for such a long time, but it's just kind of slowed these nests down. And there hasn't been near the activity within the nest to churn, that continual churn within the nest, which I hinge on using these escape boards. I tried to spark that spirit up a little bit by setting out a little bit of open feed. I'm going to caveat that was I don't have any neighbors nearby here, and I don't have any of my yards nearby that have honey supers out, because that will adulterate your product. So I try to stimulate the nest a little bit, get that churning activity going within it with that syrup, and it does seem to work, but not enough. Look at a box of honey, right? That one worked. See the bees? That's not acceptable. Like, it looks worse because they're all gathered together at the top there. It's probably 85% cleared or whatever. It mightn't be any different if I went out with a blower, a bunch of guys, and just experienced a whole bunch of bad robbing, or cool weather fume boards. But it is what it is. I'm going to bring them back because most of them are cleared, and these boxes are going to sit in the hot room probably a week and a half. So that'll get rid of all those bees that are in the boxes there. So that's the plan. Just keep on going. I had half a thought, looking at some of the bloom in the ditches and the odd alfalfa field as I drove here, that what if we hit a flow? What if all of a sudden we hit a major nectar flow, which starts plugging these boxes out? We're the 20th or 21st of August, which typically gets near the end of our honey flow regardless, and I have rarely collected a flow into September, but it is on my mind, just thinking about that. And it's almost too late for me. As I was making my second pull here last week, the week before, as we were stripping off the boxes, we were leaving one box behind just to see if we had any type of flow. And these hives just about fell into starvation because they had no flow coming in. I took all their honey, and that top box is right empty. So then we scrambled to get feed pails onto those colonies and fed down through the honey box into the brood nest. And by doing that, it placed some feed up into that second, which at that time worked really well because I had a very big brood nest down in that single box, 3 pounds of patty, and then syrup up on top. And those colonies are just sitting very comfortably right now as they're developing as they go into fall. So if we were to transition into a honey flow again, whereas that top box started getting plugged full of honey, I wouldn't be able to harvest it because it's already contaminated with syrup. So those yards are out of honey production. To get them back in, I'd have to take those boxes off, store them, and put out fresh, empty equipment to catch that flow. And that's not in the cards. So if there is a flow come on, I just have to watch to make sure these nests don't plug out just a little bit too early. But they're setting themselves up really nice. There's still an active brood nest going on. That queen is still, laying eggs, and those bees are still bringing those eggs into the larval state, developing. And these are the winter bees that are being developed right now. So there is an established sense within the brood box. When they bring in that nectar, they will organize it properly and not plug themselves out too badly. And if we did get a flow going in September, I start feeding September 1st regardless. That will be a great complement to my winter feed. And if that does transform, like if it does turn into like a real nice flow going through September, then maybe I can cancel that tanker load of syrup and save a bit of money. But those are all just thoughts. We'll just have to see how things play out. I'm not really anticipating that because the day before yesterday I'm going into yards that are right dry and they needed syrup right now. But Mother Nature can turn us on a dime. We just have to watch. We have to continually watch what's going on within the environment and not get ourselves so focused on one direction that we can't get off it, right? We have to be able to adapt within an instant like that and just make sure all these circumstances line up properly. Oh, look at the bees in that one. They're all gathering in the top though. Yeah. As it goes. I can tell when the escape board's a little slow just by the amount of bees on the screens. Quite a few bees on the screens. Look underneath. And there's little wee pockets of bees in there. But it has nothing to do with a queen being up or any type of nest situation. So the act of clearing these boxes in the hot room will just take a little bit of time, but they should be pretty much clean by the time they hit the extractor. So that window in the hot room will pull these bees out like a magnet, because they have no, they're in this box, but they'll get unsettled and impatient, and they'll start looking towards the light to see what's going on. They're in a dark room. They'll look and then they'll fly to the light, right to the window, and very effectively, very slowly just clear the rest of these bees out of these boxes. Every strategy has its flaws. We just have to justify those flaws. Just make sure that all the advantages line up to actually making sense. This is why, using a skateboard is very slow. It takes 2 trips to the yard. You get into the later part of the season when there's robbing, you got to make sure all the cracks are covered up. Next year I don't think I'll be using covers, just because I'm going to upgrade my boxes a little bit more. It's been a continual process. So I think one more cycle of old boxes out should be able to make it so my equipment's tight enough that just the odd tape here and there should do the trick. And I'll save a little bit of time, a little bit of bother. Well, it's just, as things just continue to progress, just you focus on those things, those aspects, and put a plan in place and just execute it over a bunch of time. That's just how business works.